hope you guys can see this, but this turned out so stinking cute. Oh my goodness. I used the Clear Blue Tiles Background Quilting Winter Design. This center point right here was the 8 by 10. This center point was the 6 by 10. Here was the 4 by 10 sideways, and the 4 by 4 finished out that little corner that needed done. And this is awesome. So now I'm going to iron it and get all the marks off, and then cut it to a 13-inch square, and then cut it diagonally. And that's going to give me my triangles with my background quilting. This worked fabulous. Very, very happy with this. It's just as cute as can be. All right, I am getting ready to make the triangles with the little snowman in it right here. So I am on page 26 and 27 for January. And I've got two 13-inch squares that I have background quilted. And there's any number of ways to be doing that, you guys. I had a lot of suggestions. So I am going to cut this in half, corner to corner. And these are larger than we need, but they're going to work out just fine. Okay, so here's one. Very good. Okay. And I need 4 2.5-inch squares of the red for his little hat. I already have the multi-needle prepped with all of the thread colors that I need. Okay, so there's my 4 little hats, way more than we need. And then we need 4 pieces of 3 by 4 on this glitter. All right, so there are my 3 by 4 pieces, all 4 of them, of the glitter. So we're ready for that. I've already got some, the Kimberbell no-show poly mesh in the hoop, and the very first stitch is going to be to stitch out placement lines for your background fabric. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this down 3.5 inches. I'm gonna take a friction marker and I'm gonna come down 3.5. It's looking for center. That's what we're trying to do here. Okay. So fold it over at 3.5. Pretty straight, just like this. And then we are going to fold it in half again. And I'm matching my little points right out here. And I'm going to take a Wonder Clip and clip this. This right angle right here is going to go on the placement lines on the stabilizer. Okay, I have all of my spools already that I want to use on the back of the machine, and I have already rethreaded all of my needles. And I have a Filtech magnetic white bobbin in the bobbin case, and I've already dropped my oil in there for the day. So I sent the design over wirelessly. I'm going to touch the screen for wireless, and here's my little snowman right here. And I'm going to hit set. And I don't need to do anything else to it on this menu, so I'm just going to hit edit end. And now I need to assign all of the thread colors that I'm going to use. And so I'm going to touch the 3 spools. And just like before, this column right here corresponds to all the thread color stops. And these columns right here correspond to the 10 spools on the back. We have 19 thread color changes. Here is the hand to tell it to stop before we stitch. There is a do not stitch and an OK button. So the very first line, we've got a little preview window right here, and the very first line tells us that is our placement line guides for the background fabric. And I'm going to do that in a color that I can see, so I'm going to do it on number 5, which is black. And then I'm going to jump to the second stitch, and before it stitches I want it to stop so that I can take the hoop out and put my background fabric where it needs to go. So I'm going to put up the hand, because remember, this thing stops and then stitches. It doesn't stitch and then stop. So you just have to remember that it's backwards from what we would think it would be. Okay, and then stitch number 2 is a basting line that's going to come out. And so I recommend that you do that in a color that you can see. I'm going to do it in a bright pink on number 9. And that way I know that it will come out. Okay. And then number 3 is the placement line for the glitter. And that is going to be number 6 in white. And then the next stitch is the tack down for the glitter. But before it stitches, I'm going to give it a hand and tell it to stop so I can put the glitter on there. And then I want it to stitch in white. The next stitch is the placement line for the hat, but before it stitches that, I'm going to tell it to stop because I need to pull the hoop and trim that glitter away from the background fabric. And then I want that to stitch on cone number 8, spool number 8, okay? And then the next one is the tack down for the hat. Before it stitches, I want it to stop so that I can put the fabric on there, and then I want it to stitch number 8, spool number 8. And the next one is the decorative stitching around the outside of the snowman, and before it does that, I want it to stop so that I can trim away the fabric from around the hat. And then when it does stitch, I want number 6, I want that in white. Number 8 is the snowflake detail, so that is also going to be number 6. Now, I don't need it to stop, and this is one of the beauties, this is the beauty of a multi-needle. All the rest of these detail stitches and satin stitches that are going to happen, I don't have to change the thread colors manually for that. So, number 8, the snowflake detail is going to be in white. That is on spool number 6. Okay, let me hit this button and scroll down. There are the ski top fill. That is on spool number 3. And the next one is the ski bottom fill. That is spool number 2. And number 11 is the ski straps fill. That is spool number 8. And number 12 is the hat decorative outline. That's also going to be spool number 8. 13 is the arms detail. That is going to be spool number 2. 14 is the pom-pom detail. That is going to be spool number 10. 15 is the scarf fill, also spool number 10. 16 is the scarf stripe and trim detail. That's a green. I need to fix that. That'll be spool number 7. All right, the next one, it has a stop on it. My machine shows it. Yeah, I can't undo that. So that's going to automatically stop even though I don't need it to. So that is 17, the nose, and that is spool number 4. I'll just have to tell it to go on when it gets there. That happens, you know, those weird things every once in a while. Number 18 is the eyes detail. That is spool number 1. Number 19 is the trimming guidelines. I am going to use spool number 6 for that. I'm going to tell it okay. I'm going to tell it embroidery, and we are ready to go. But before I do that, I have to go back for stitch number 16. I need to put another spool onto the back of the machine. All right, I got a green thread on number 7, and I'm all ready to go. So I'm just going to touch lock, whoop, lock, and go. It's going to stitch the outline to place the fabric. Okay, I'm going to pull the hoop and put this where it needs to go. So if you're doing this on a single needle, you're going to do the exact same process that I'm showing here. You're just going to be changing your threads individually. Okay, so you're going to place the center corner right here in this quadrant of the alignment lines. Fold it over. So it looks like this. Okay, see that? And then you're just going to fold it straight up. Don't let it wobble. You want it to be straight. Paper tape. I'm going to tape it down here because I don't have enough room since I've got this smaller magnetic hoop that I'm using. Just make sure you tape it out of the way. and make sure it's not going to go anywhere. There, that's fine. And I'm going to put the hoop back in the machine, and now it's going to do the basting line that I've got it in a different color so that I can see it to remove it. I don't know if I'm going to do that on the other three. We'll see. Okay, and here is the outline for the snowman. Be sure to pull that plastic off. Lay it right over the top. Make sure all sides are covered. You can see everything underneath, all four sides. Keep it down. Now it's going to do the tack down. So cute. Oh my gosh, this is cute already. I can't stand it. Now remove the hoop, and you want to trim around the outside of the fabric and get that glitter fabric off there. Be sure to trim with a firm surface underneath your hoop so you don't pop it loose. If you pop it loose, you're going to be in trouble. You really cannot pre-cut this glitter. I don't recommend it on a cutting machine. I mean, you could try, but it's not that big of a deal. It's pretty easy to trim away. Okay, now that it has been trimmed, you need a pressing cloth. Press it for 15 to 20 seconds. Now we should have the placement line for the hat. Tack down for the hat. And now remove the hoop and trim the fabric away from around the tack down line. This is so much fun. I love this. I'm having a ball. Our weather just went really, really bad. We just got this. It was 60 earlier today, and it's supposed to drop into the teens tonight, which is unheard of here in South Texas. All right, so there's my little hat. Now there are 17 minutes left to stitch on this 20-minute design, and all the rest of it is just the machine doing its thing, Spanky doing his magic. So I'm gonna hit lock and go and let it do its thing. And whoa, 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 whoa. What is that? What did I do? Oh, wrong color thread. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to stop. I should have made that a 6, and I made it a 7. Okay, I'm going to lock and trim. I'm going to cut. And I'm going to go in and look what I did. I used green instead of white, so I got to fix that. Okay, whenever you have something like that where you realize at the last minute that you have the wrong thread color, let's see, I am on stitch number 7 out of 19. Right now, because I'm on it, I don't think I can change it. There is a thread spool with a magnifying glass. It looks like a magnifying glass. If I touch that and I try to change this now, it knocks at me and won't let me do it. So I'm going to tell it okay, and I'm going to go into needle plus minus, and then I'm going to go back 1 to the start of that again, and let me see if it'll let me change it. Tell it okay, go into the spool, switch it to 6. Yes. So you can change thread spools on the fly if you realize you made a mistake. Let me zoom in so you can see that button I'm talking about. It's this one right here. It's one spool, and it looks like it has a little magnifying glass, but it's not a magnifying glass, but it means that you can change the thread color on the fly. You cannot change it mid-stitch. So I was like 10 stitches or 30 stitches into this one already, and it wouldn't let me change it. But if you go back to needle plus minus, jump back to the beginning of that stitch, then you can change it. So I'm good to go now. I'm going to tell it lock and go. And I'm actually glad that happened, because I have been meaning to tell y'all about that button on this machine, and I haven't had an opportunity. Yeah, I totally meant to do that. Okay, we're all finished. Oh, that turned out just adorable. Would you look at that? Okay, so I'm going to remove this from the hoop. I am going to remove the basting line. 1 down, 3 to go. All right, see you guys back here in a bit. All right, now that we've got all of our snowmen all done, there is one little tiny jump thread between the eyes, and I'm just going to pop my scissors in there and trim that. Generally, it's easier to, when you're trimming jump threads, don't trim where the jump thread started, trim where it stopped, because there's a natural tension from where it started to where it stopped, and if you trim where it stopped, it'll pop up, and then you can grab it a little bit easier. So I wanted to show you how these need to be trimmed up in order to fit into the topper. And I'm going to take a smaller ruler here. We were given trim lines, and these are in white, so I'm going to go ahead and mark them and just kind of draw over them with my friction marker to show you. So on these lines, the easiest way to do this, you want to take a long ruler and run the ruler edge right on that drawn line, and then you need to make sure that the line on the ruler is straight with the edge of the fabric. So you're kind of cutting backwards. It'll feel like it's backwards, but it's actually correct. And so once you get the line straight on the ruler, slide it back until it is exactly on that marked line that you drew, and you have a straight edge, as straight as possible anyway. And that'll make life a lot easier, and you want to cut that. Okay. Pull that up. There we go. So what I'm getting at is, if you cut it this way, where you've got the ruler right on the line and you're trimming this off, you're not guaranteed that this piece out here is exactly straight. And so the way I'm going to cut mine, you can do what you want, but the way I'm going to cut mine is to cut it a little bit backwards so that I can place my ruler on the marked line, on the stitch trim line, as a guide of a depth, and then straighten out the cut with a line and the edge of the fabric. I laid awake last night thinking about how to do this to make sure it was right. I know you guys do that too. Okay. And then same on this side. Put it up to the line to find the depth. And see, even though it's on the line here straight, it's very narrow down here, but it's very wide up here. And so it's important to get that straight so that your table topper will be square. There we go. So that's how you trim up into the triangles that you need. Now you've got I've got some flapping going on back here with excess stabilizer. I'm going to trim that off. You don't have to, okay? You can leave it if you want. This stuff is so lightweight, it will not add to the hand of your project at all. But you can just clean it up a little bit if you like. You see, I got some threads here. Trim away. Be sure to take out the basting line, and if you've got little holes, just kind of scrub it with your fingernail and very lightly, and those will go away. And the friction marker will go away with an iron. There we go. That looks really good. This one turned out just adorable. He's too cute, isn't he? So there's also on here, I want you to notice, there is a center stitch that they put right in here at the top. So if you fold it on the center stitch, you have half, but you don't really want to fold it because you might end up creasing your embroidery design. So that's why they gave you this little stitch mark here at center at the top. Be sure not to cut that off, okay? You don't want to cut that off because you're going to measure and place center of the we've got the Lazy Daisy center, and we have the inner border that's going to go right here, and you want the center of that inner border. That's your marking point to put those together. when we get ready to put it all together here in just a minute, okay? So trim up all your triangles and I'll see you back here in a bit. This green piece is 6 by 6, the scrap that they gave me in the kit. So I'm gonna mark 3 inches down and 3 inches across, and then I'll trim to size. And I've got my pellon on the back of this. So I have sent one 2x2 design over to the Brother Luminaire wirelessly using Embrilliance, and I'm going to put it right here, and then I'm going to add and put one here and put one here and put one here, and use the beautiful camera system in the Luminaire to help me get this done, all 4 of them at one time. Otherwise, you would want to just do them one at a time and stitch the little ski design or whatever it is. You might just decide to do a single X through them. That might be easy to do as well, whatever you want. So I'm going to go background quilt this right now. I have my fabric floating in a 6 by 10 hoop, and I've got it marked into 4 corners. So I'm going to center a design in each one of those and then trim them to fit to the 2.5. So I'm going to go to embroidery and the pocket for memory, and I'm going to hit the wireless button, and there's my design right there, the 2x2 winter, and I'm going to hit set. And I'd already been scanning this once, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the camera button up here, and it's going to scan what is in the hoop. And that's going to allow me to accurately place the designs. So I am going to take this one with my finger, and I'm just going to move it right up here, part of the design, and I'm going to touch add and pocket for memory. I'm going to continue to do this. I think I can copy and paste too. Let me see. Pretty sure I could probably do that. Let me do 2. Let me see. Edit. And here is copy. And grab it and move it down here. Yep, look at that. How cool is that? And copy one more. All right, that's much easier than going through the whole process again. Well, that's the first time I've done that. That's awesome. So I'm all done. I'm just going to touch embroidery, hit the green button, and go. Oh, that is so cute. Okay, when the other 3 are done, I'll trim them apart. All finished. They turned out perfect. How cute is that? All right, I'm going to go trim these apart into 2.5-inch squares and attach them to the outer border ends. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew all 4 of these into a 4 patch. So they'll go, you want to put them out, you know, how they need to be, and then you're going to sew them into a 4 patch. Now, when you go to put these together, what you're trying to match are this point here and this point here with the ones on the block next to it. And the way I like to do that is to take, you'll put them together, okay? And you want to take a pin, and you can see the stitching in the back, and take a pin and put it in right at it, right at that corner. See that? It's right on the corner of that little part. And then, let me get this straight. Yeah, like that. Okay. And then take it and put it in directly on this one as well. Okay, it doesn't matter if your seam allowances are not the same. The idea is you have a pin and it is horizontal, just like this, okay? The pin is not down like that or twisted like that. It's actually straight horizontal, and that's really important because that's going to anchor those stitch lines together. So I'm going to take a pin, another pin, and I'm going to in one side and out the other, right on one side of that horizontal pin, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of it. And then you want to anchor this other point right here and right here. Get that pin horizontal and anchor it on either side of the pin. Okay, so here's what it looks like when you anchor this point and this point together. And this is all kind of wonky, weird down here at the bottom with the white, but it's all going to come out okay because these points right here are pretty level, and I'm going to do everything I can to catch the edge of this white inside. So I'm going to do the same thing. Now I press my seam open and pressed it down with a clapper. So it's nice and flat, and now I'm going to do the other one the same and get these sewn together. All right, I got my 4 square, the Lazy Daisy is together. It turned out just beautiful. See, even though I was a little short on the side seams, it all still worked out. I will tell you, back here, I took a hammer to this and pounded this down on a piece of cardboard and just really went after it with the hammer and then ironed it flat and pressed it with a clapper. But that's how I got that to lay flat like that. This should measure at 10.5 square. Mine is more like 10 3/8. So this is where you can use a little finagling with your borders to try to make it work, okay? And I can see I'm just a tiny bit short. You can work on stretching it if you want with your borders, and you can see I've got a good almost 1/4 inch right here that I'm going to have to work with. So there's a technique in garment sewing where you put the bigger side on the bottom, big on bottom. And what that does is the feed dogs will then pull through the bottom piece of fabric just a little bit quicker than it does the top piece of fabric, and then your borders will match. So there's a little bit of English here that we do. That this is how these are going to go on, just like this. I've got all of the inner borders on now, and it does look wonky, but just kind of go with me on this. The more that you add to each side, the more even out it's going to get and look as time goes by, believe me. So what I'm going to do is take my ruler here, and I'm just going to mark where this seam line is, where these two pieces came together, where those two blocks came together. I'm going to mark center out here on the edge on all 4 sides so that the triangles are centered on each border. And as you're putting this together, kind of pay attention. So my sides were put on first and then the top and bottom. So as you put on your triangles, you're going to want to put on your sides first and then your top and bottom. So kind of keep that method going so that sides, top and bottom, or either way, top and bottom, however it is that you want to do it. You just don't want to have this one go on like this and then try to do these, and it's not going to work. So if you always want to put your triangle on where your shortest borders were first and then your long ones. And so that's how you do that. So the reason I marked center on here is because of that center stitch that happened on the triangle. So I'm just going to meet those up and pin and pin. And when you sew, you're going to want to start out here, okay? You're going to want to start, let me get this evened up, okay? Start way out here on the tip. Try not to start right there. Start way out on the tip and then go all the way down and sew it the way you need to, and just make sure that you have matched up that center point. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll be back in a minute. It is getting more and more square. It's turning out just fine. So at this point, this needs to measure 18 by 18 square, and I've got it exactly. I have an 18-inch square, and it's laying flat, and it is because I encouraged it to lay flat with a clapper. So if you don't have a clapper, you're definitely going to want to get one as we go forward. I'll link to the one that I'm using below from Riley Blake. But I'm all finished with the triangles now, and I want to go ahead and add on my outer borders. So I am going to go sew the cornerstones to 2 pieces. Those are going to be the long ones, but I'm going to sew this one here and this one here, and then put on the other 2 on the outside, and we'll be ready to put the backing on. Oh my goodness, it's all put together. It just needs the backing. Now, when you're doing your sewing, when you're adding your borders, points that you want to pay attention to are nesting your seams right here, okay, so that they're not off. They should all meet just like that. And then also your points here on your border. You don't want to tip them, okay? And you don't want to be, you know, too far away from them if possible. This one I got right on it. I'm totally okay with that. But this one right here is closer to perfect as far as I'm concerned. But I'm a little picky on those things. I am absolutely loving this. I'm so glad that I used white thread in the cornerstones. I think that is so stinking cute. I'm debating on putting some more batting inside of it. It might help it to lay a little flatter as well. So I'll have to see what I end up doing with this. So I'm just going to go through the process of adding a backing just like I normally would to a project. And then I'm going to go ahead and bind it. And then I'm going to, like I said, do my wave stitch. All right, we'll see you back here in a bit when I figure out what I'm going to do with this to finish it. So in the end, I did decide to go ahead and put some batting in between the top. And I'm just going to trim this up. All I did was a wave stitch in the inner border and the outer border, and that was it. You can kind of see it better on the back. That's all I did to put it together. Nice and simple. It's still adorable. And now I'm going to trim it up. So I have pressed it out and flipped the corners. I don't trim on a 45 in here at all. I just leave it, and flipped them out so they know where they need to go, and the batting's nice and flat. And I did this wave stitch just a little off center, so it looks center now since 1/4 of an inch of this is taken up in binding. And then I just flip this over. I just flip it over to the back and make sure I have plenty of binding that goes over that stitch that I put it on with. And then I will stitch in the ditch right here along the edge. And when I do my corners, what I do is at about this point, I will fold down the side the turn where I'm going and take one pin and pin it. Okay, and then fold down the side that I'm sewing now, so I have a nice miter on the back. And I pin directly on that mitered point to make sure that it stays where I want it. Okay. And I'm going to put my little label in there. Look real nice. I'm just going to put a pin in there to keep that in place and get this done. Alright, that's it. We are finished. Trim this. Let me show you. Look how that came out on the back. That stitch just works so good, and my miters are perfect front and back. You can't see the stitch in the ditch. It just turned out absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Love it. And I am all finished. So you guys, this has been a lot of fun. It's just turned out absolutely adorable, and I am so happy that you joined me on it. So get ready for February's to come up pretty soon. We'll talk to you soon. You guys go sew something. Bye.